ACC already had its unequal revenue sharing success initiative, eat what you kill. Now they are introducing unequal revenue sharing per viewership numbers, a part of this ACC settlement, a part of this kumbaya moment within the ACC. A lot of college football reporters are saying this is going to be replicated throughout the other conferences. The ACC is on the cutting edge. I don't think so. Unequal revenue sharing per viewership numbers, I do not think it's the magic potion. Welcome to episode 424 of College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Let's not waste any more time. I want to get into this article. Tiered revenue sharing will forever change college sports conferences, by Eben Novy-Williams. When Florida State Athletics was courting private equity money in August of 23, the school built out a 28-page model projecting its finances through 2043. For revenue from conference media deals, the department's biggest source of income, the Seminoles projected $44.4 million in 24, $49.9 million in 25, followed by a large jump to $78.9 million in 2026. I first saw the document in January 24, shortly after the school board voted to try to sue its way out of the ACC. It seemed clear at the time that Florida State officials believed one of two things would happen. One, the Seminoles would leave the ACC for a richer conference, or two, the ACC would agree to give it a much larger share of its ESPN TV deal. This week, the school negotiated its answer, the latter, via a wide-ranging settlement with its current league. In exchange for dropping their lawsuits and their active attempts to bolt for greener pastures, Florida State and Clemson and the rest of the ACC have agreed to a new revenue distribution model that will reward the members that drive the most viewership. It's a concession, not just to Florida State and Clemson, but also to a handful of other ACC schools, such as North Carolina and Miami, that might also have entertained new leagues in the coming years. According to a slide presented to Clemson trustees on Tuesday, the ACC will take 60% of its base payment from ESPN and roll it into a viewership pool. That money will be then distributed to schools proportionally based on a 5-year rolling viewership figures in football and men's basketball. If Clemson represents 10% of the viewership, the Tigers will get 10% of the money. The school projects that the new structure could bring an additional $120 million in revenue over the next 6 years. That is $20 million per to Clemson. That's the projection. $20 million a year for 6 years at $120 million total. It's a temporary solution to the ACC's problems, but it's also a template for the leagues like the SEC and the Big Ten. And boy, do I disagree with that, and I will give you my opinion at the end of the article. Both are approaching $1 billion in annual revenue and feature some of the sport's most dominant football brands, Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, and also a handful of much smaller programs, Rutgers, Vanderbilt, Purdue. That mattered less a decade ago when college sports was a big business, but with virtually free labor and no profit motive. Today, as schools prep to pay players and investors dream of a future Super League that includes just the NCAA's most valuable teams, it's become a looming challenge. In the last few years, I've asked many people at the major conferences, athletic directors and commissioners, about when they think their leagues will get around to booting their least valuable members. The response is always the same: never. never is laughable in this industry. But tiered revenue sharing is the way of addressing this imbalance without the more nuclear option of Texas and Georgia. Were to really push for a bigger piece of the SEC revenue pie, it would be hard for Vanderbilt to retain its share. Teasing the idea out further, we may not be far away from a multi-tier leagues, a division, A division, a B division, or from conferences using revenue sharing percentages as a lever to nudge the less valuable schools elsewhere. Okay, that's enough. There is a little bit more to the article. You get the drift. I will provide a link in the description box below the video. Do I think everything is going to remain like it is today, 5-6 years from now? No. I think there is a great potential in the SEC and the Big Ten to eat more of what you kill. If you go to the playoffs, you grab that money. If you go to the NCAA, you don't. There's going to be less sharing when it comes to having success, like the success initiative in the ACC. I think the Big Ten and the SEC will go to some of that model. Maybe even just a little bit on the unequal revenue sharing part of the media, the payout money, the conference payout money when it comes to the media money. But to have this type of imbalance where Clemson's going to make $120 million more, and then other schools are going to be making less in the next 6 years in the ACC. This is a solution for the problem that the ACC had. In other words, schools were trying to get out. They had a place to go if they could get out. They were in the court suing. But this is not a magic potion. Remember, the ACC's media contract did not increase. You're just splitting the pie differently. Does this really help the ACC? No, it doesn't. Schools in the ACC, they're going to be schools in the ACC that are going to be receiving less resources. Less resources, not only a bigger gap between themselves and Clemson and Florida State and Miami, but a gap is going to be increasing between the bottom half of the ACC versus all the Big 12 schools. The bottom half of the ACC versus the bottom half of the Big Ten. The bottom half of the ACC versus the bottom half of the SEC in resources. And that is all going to catch up. In other words, the ACC is going to wither 5-6 years from now, even if all these top brand schools stay in the conference. The bottom half of the ACC, those schools are going to be receiving less and less resources. And it's going to wither. The competition is going to wither. The conference is not going to, the reputation is going to even sink. The perception of the conference is going to sink. It's not a solution. It absolutely is. It was the solution for the problem that they had, but it's not going to be something that the Big Ten and the SEC is going to replicate in total. The ACC is not doing anything on the cutting edge except for taking money from some schools and it's going to be available now to the Florida State, to the Miami, and the Clemsons. Look, 5 or 6 years from now, when the Big Ten and the SEC renew their media contracts, could there be some adjustments to the bigger brands in those conferences? Sure. Possibly. Maybe. But to the extent of where Clemson is going to be in a 6-year period, could make $120 million more, and a lot of that has to do with viewership numbers? I don't think so. Remember now, here in the ACC, the viewership numbers, Clemson had just signed, the ACC just signed a scheduling deal with Notre Dame, where Clemson and Notre Dame are going to be playing each other every single year. So the viewership numbers are baked in. Clemson's got the advantage. So does Florida State. So does Miami, because they're in the scheduling agreement with Notre Dame. The bottom half of the ACC schools are not only going to be playing Notre Dame less because of this new scheduling agreement, they're going to be playing Florida State just a little bit less. They're going to be playing Miami just a little bit less. They're going to be playing Clemson a whole lot less. Each and every one of those other ACC schools. It's all baked in. The viewership numbers, it's all baked in. It was already an advantage for Florida State because they're Florida State, incredible brand. Clemson, an incredible brand. They already got more viewership numbers. But that gap now is only going to be widened between themselves and the other ACC schools. Yeah, I don't think this is not a magic potion. I don't think this is a cutting edge type of stuff. You're going to have, if the SEC and the Big Ten included the viewership number, that metric, and part of their conference payouts for the next go around, there is going to be a rock fight in both those conferences when it comes to what rivalry games those teams and all those those two conferences are going to play, what time slots. I mean, because you know what channel you are on, what time you are on, what date of the calendar you are on, also has to do with type of viewership numbers you receive. And lastly, not every viewership numbers are in a large part not understood. Sometimes when you get a viewership number of 2.1 million for a game, it's way more beneficial for your media partners and your national advertisers versus a $2.6 million viewership number. It's 2.6 million viewership number for another game because a lot of it has to do with the demographics. Who is watching that game? What is the demographics watching that particular live sports? Because the demographics will drive who is going to buy the products and services of those national advertisers. So the viewership numbers are often misunderstood. Yeah, I don't think this is a cutting edge to anything. And I don't think that the ACC, a lot of reporters are saying they have now got themselves stability for the next 5-6 years. I'm not buying that either. I'm not buying a lot of the reporting that is going on. Sure, it's going to be easier for Florida State and Clemson to compete in the ACC versus competing in the SEC. Sure, Florida State and Clemson with this new deal might make a little bit more money in the ACC versus the SEC. But if you have an opportunity to go to the SEC, if the invitation is out there, if there is interest on the other side, you are going to do a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, a lot of cloak and dagger to try to jump over to the other side because there's this other important ingredient among everything we talk about, and that is security, getting to the highest land possible. You don't know what the future is. You don't know what things are going to look like 5 or 6 years from now. So if you have an opportunity to jump to the SEC or the Big Ten, if there is any opportunity whatsoever, you can't just look at the bottom line, the money line when it comes to the next year or the year after or the year after. You got to look out after your future as an athletic department, the front porch of your university. So I'm not buying the 5-year stability. I'm not buying that this ACC unequal revenue sharing using viewership numbers. I don't think that's going to be replicated. I'm not buying a lot of what is being sold out there. Let me know how wrong I got it once again in the comments section. Let me know how you're thinking about this unequal revenue sharing in the ACC. I completely understand why they did it. Florida State, massive victory. Clemson, massive victory. Miami, North Carolina, massive victory. I even am starting to understand why the bottom half of the ACC, why they did this deal, because I think it had to do with a large part of the ACC picking up the option, the ESPN picking up the option for ACC for after 2027. I think this was all part of the deal. I think ACC schools that are not going to be able to jump to the Big Ten, the SEC, or may not have the opportunity, the option for the Big 12, I think they've gained security. I think ESPN has given them security in this picking up the option. I understand why all this happened, but I don't think it's going to be replicated. Let me know in the comment section below the video. Until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.